Okay. Hey, my name is Azariah. I'm here with Scorestone Strategies. Here we are today. We're interviewing a private chef. I'm gonna go ahead and let him handle the introductions. Here you go.
Hello, my name is Curtis, and I am Bub, and my presence is a presence because I am love, or Chef Bub.
That was a way better introduction than I had. I'll tell you that much. Okay. So after I had looked over your Instagram, one of the things I really want to ask you about, especially because you attended a culinary school out in Dallas. So can you tell me to start, or can you tell me what had caused you to realize that culinary was the path that fit you?
Um, Man, I found out about the cooking thing. It was an accident, right? Like, it was an accident, you know. So I really just started because my grandfather, right? So you asked me earlier, you saw on my Instagram my father and my grandfather there. So, my grandfather, I seen him since I was a kid, like smoke all types of meat, right? For anybody that asked, different people and family. And so he was like 85 at the time. And I was like, okay, well, somebody got to learn how to smoke these briskets, because he always did briskets for his birthdays or any holidays or stuff like that. And I just got into it wanting to being able just to be like my grandfather, or be able to at least fulfill that for the family, for whenever we wanted it, right? So with that being said, I bought a little smoker, man, the little silver little smokies. I don't know if y'all remember that. Those smokers, man. And actually, I still have it. That's probably the one I use the most. And I smoked my first brisket on that, which is crazy as hell, which I would never do again. The bottom was burnt, you know what I mean? Just because it's too small, it's too close to the fire, right? But that's what I had at the time. This is like 2015-ish. You know what I'm saying? Really probably, actually, that was like 2014-ish, right? And so I started just kind of bumping around, trying to figure it out, just shadowing him whenever he was cooking. And then, we started just doing it, like doing a podcast. Me and my boy Styles, we was doing Good Eats in the Streets, where we would go out, sell food, and then have guests, entrepreneurs or whatever, and we'd have them on the show, and I would just be promoting my food like that. I started doing that. And then full circle, about a year later, my a good friend of mine, he was having his wedding on a Friday, and I was one of the groomsmen, and we were eating, and he had ordered barbecue for the wedding dinner, and I was sitting there eating the food there, and I was just like, in my mind, it just was like, I could do better than this. You know what I'm saying? It's like I could do this. You know what I'm saying? What I'm eating right now, and I could make this way better. And like, so that was Friday. Monday, I enrolled in culinary art school. So that's how we got started in the whole cooking thing.
Well, one thing I will say is I appreciate you sharing your story with me. Two, I seen the food that you cooked on your Instagram. I know your grandfather is ridiculously proud of the progress that you have made. So I do want to can't stress that part enough. Another question I want to ask you, especially about the culinary school, especially because there's a lot of people around our age that probably have the same passions as you. What are some tough obstacles or some trials and tribulations that you have to overcome to get to the point that you're at right now while you were attending culinary school?
Culinary school, that was interesting, right? But I say that because I went to Le Cordon Bleu. It's a 21 month program. And then you have an externship, right? So for 3 months, so you're pretty much almost 2 years. But it's interesting because it's 5 days a week, and it's at least 4 to 6 hours a day. You know what I mean? So working in the daytime and going to school at night, right? So, you got 8-hour job and 4 hours of class. You got homework and other stuff that comes with that, right? And so it was just a journey, man. You just had to stay focused. You know what I mean? It's just gonna be a rhythm. It's gonna be like, man, this shit is some bullshit, right? Homework, you know what I'm saying? Anybody that's been in school, they, that's what you're doing. So working, because I got into culinary arts later. You know what I'm saying? I'm a baby in the culinary arts world, right? So I'm only been in it for 8 years at this point, and that's including the 2 years in school. So being out of school, it's only been 6. And it'll be 8 years in August, actually. Okay. So yeah, but challenges, man, it's just all type of stuff. I think everybody will have their own journey, right? So I don't think specific challenges are important, but whatever that challenge is, it's an obstacle, because whatever you sign up to do, whoever you are on this side of it can't be the same person that finishes.
That makes sense.
Right? You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing, is these challenges, this microphone is the obstacle, right? So if I gotta get over here to get to where I'm going. And it's just understanding that that's required for you to be who you have to be over there. Because you can get there and it not even be what you thought it was.
That is true.
But more important than that is just like who you became on the journey. You know what I'm saying? So it's just the obstacles. You just got to push through whatever that looks like for you. For me, I had a tumor, right? So I had to miss some class for that. It was benign, but it was just a growth on my shoulder, right? And so I think that was a challenge because I missed like a week or 2 weeks, and this is the fast-paced program, right? To the point where I couldn't miss any more days. You know what I'm saying? So having the medical thing, so you're out, you're healing, your body's changing, and so that part was, I think that was physically challenging, right? Can't really exercise, can't work out, so different things, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's just, so that made it really more challenging to come back in and catch back up. Because this is an applied science school. Applied meaning, yes, it's some book work, but most of your grades are from applying the skill set that the teacher can see or the chef can see in the classroom. Okay. So, you missing that and having to catch up.
Yeah, that sounds very
You know what I'm saying? And so that was interesting within itself, but it was, that's a part of my journey, so that I just had to play catch up. But I remember when I went back, we were baking cookies. That's the only thing I really remember from baking was the chocolate chip cookies. I mean, I remember some other recipes, but on the other side of that, I make some dope ass chocolate chip cookies. You know what I'm saying? As far as baking goes, chocolate chip cookies are my thing, right? And I even do like what we call a cookie cobbler. So mostly it could be any kind of fruit cobbler, right? But most people go with peach around here. But I think the first one I did was actually a cinnamon apple. But peach, so normally it's a peach cookie cobbler. So basically it's like a cobbler, you know what I'm saying, the fruit cobbler with a cookie dough crust. Whoa. You know what I mean? Whoa. And so, you get the cobbler and the hot cookie, with that, the little chocolate. So it's a little different experience. Yeah. And, serve it with vanilla ice cream just like you would with a regular pie dough crust. So it's just with cookie. And I don't make the cobbler as sweet because the cookie, of course, has so much brown sugar, right? So, so that's like my probably Chef Bub dessert is that. Like, that's my thing.
I don't know, but listen, this cookie dough cobbler sound real good. I'm gonna have to try some of that sometime. Another thing I want to say, I really do respect your mindset, especially being able to focus on the goal and just smashing down all the obstacles in front of you, because that does go a long way, and it is typically hard for people to overcome these things. So I think a lot of people appreciate the message that you had just spoke, telling them to be peerless about the goals they're trying to seek, and once again, I really respect that. I think that's dope. Another thing I wanted to ask you was, so how did cooking get started in your family? Like, what had caused your grandfather to start cooking, and what caused him to pass it down to your father, and so and so?
Well, good question, man. And I'm gonna get to that, but also when you say like smashing the goals, man, that happens sometimes. But man, the truth is, it's a challenge. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's like, we always learn something from everything, right? And I think that, yes, people that are successful, they do knock out goals. But I think it's somewhat of it looks too pretty, because that ain't the truth. You know what I'm saying? The grit of it is what is like, yeah, you smashed it, or sometimes you get caught up in the mix because life happens. But like, that's the part that people don't really talk about, but people need to hear to keep going, right? You know what I'm saying? Because ain't nobody out here just executing without being challenged. You know what I'm saying? It's going to happen. And that's just it. Whatever it is going to happen. It's not good or bad that whatever happens, it's just a part of the journey. It's like understanding that part. But, so the cooking, and so my grandfather and my father that you saw on Instagram, that's my mother's father. My Curtis Sr., I didn't have much of a relationship with him, but he passed when I was like 2. You know what I'm saying? So my mother's father, George, is the one, so my mother's side, now, don't get me wrong, in the community that my father grew up in, his family was known for having, good family dinners. My grandmother could cook as well. But more so for me, my experiences around it were with my mother's side of the family. So honestly, I don't know who taught my grandfather how to cook. You know what I'm saying? That's a question that I haven't asked. I never asked, right? You know what I'm saying? I just know that he did it, right? I know that he was very apt at it, from everywhere from working a backhoe to a smoker, butchering. He was a real farmer amongst other things, right? Yeah, very versatile, right? And so, but the cooking was just always a part of my experience. So I knew that people in the community respected my grandmother could cook and my grandfather could cook. And so I do know that because my grandmother grew up with my mother and her siblings were younger, he taught them how to cook because my grandmother was a midwife. You know what I'm saying? So she wasn't there, taking care of them and like she was there at home, right? But of course, like when you're at home having dinner, he did that because she was working, cooking dinner for someone else, right? She was a midwife. So he taught her and her siblings how to cook primarily because of that. You know what I mean? So I know where that comes from. But everybody was involved, right? This is a community thing with the family. And so my grandmother, my grandfather, I just seen him smoking stuff, man. It would be something normal to go to McKinney and to 503 Standard, man, and just be like, it's a goat hanging, bleeding out, right? Or they could be skinning squirrels. Or they went fishing, they scaling fish, you know what I'm saying? So, that was normal for me growing up, right? And then there's a whole another farm in East Texas somewhere, right, that we went to. So I saw things there. So for me, really, by the time, until I was like 12 or 13, I didn't really understand. Most of my friends had never seen a real farm. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's normal is whatever you're used to. Yeah. So I was accustomed to that. But most people that had only seen like that stuff on TV, you know what I'm saying? Like I seen that. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, as a kid, as a young teenager, you can't even understand how important that is, right? You know what I'm saying? Because like now looking at it, it's like, all that shit I was doing in my teenage years. I mean, that was the teenage years, right? I did what I wanted to do, but it's like hindsight 2020, like what was going on like on the farm and different things and those connections with the family. I get it now, right? When they're only asking for your time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because it's like they're giving lessons, but you got to spend the time to get the lessons. So, but yeah, you know what I mean? So I'm saying all that to say, like, when it comes to the whole essence of the cooking, it was everything from the whole farm, right? The vegetables, the slaughtering, you know what I'm saying? I just seen it. It's just normal that I was around it. So it's just a part of life, you know what I mean? And everybody can kind of cook, you know what I'm saying? My sisters cook, you know what I mean? I'm just the one to turn it into a business. So, I just did what my family was already doing, and now we're here.
Okay. Honestly, I appreciate you sharing your point of view because me personally, I grew up in Dallas and I grew up in the suburbs. I'm one of those people that have never seen a farm. So to hear your point of view on how it was growing up in a farm and how you took those skills and adapted it into what you're doing now is very impressive in my opinion. With that being said, can you explain to me about your journey as an entrepreneur? Because while I see a lot of talented chefs, they tend to work for, restaurants and things like that. You're a private chef. So you are your own owner. So at that point, I would love to gain some more insight as to what caused you to make that decision as why you're going to take your cooking skills, but that's the path that you took rather than working for a different institution.
Okay. Good question. It was an easy decision. You know what I'm saying? A very easy decision. And I say that because, like I said, I'm getting into the culinary field late, per se, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because essentially, how old do you think I am?
Hey, man, black don't crack. So I'm saying I'm probably maybe 25 max.
You being nice.
I'm wrong?
I'll be 40 in August.
Are you 40?
Yes.
You do a good job taking care of yourself, though, man.
Man, but so I didn't get into the cooking until my early 30s, right? You know what I'm saying? So I'm like 32, you know what I'm saying? 32, 33, getting into the cooking world. So by the time I finish with school, I'm 36. So you're going to go work at a restaurant and you're going to make a line cook starting off, especially then, you're like $10 to $15 an hour depending on where you're starting at. You know what I mean? Yeah. And even so it's like, but I'm already making, you know what I'm saying, a handsome ransom in corporate America, right? So, that's a hell of a lifestyle change. Yeah. Right? So, that was an easy decision. Like, okay, if I'm going to do this, then I'm going to go work for myself. I'm going to build a catering business, right? But not jumping into opening up a restaurant yet. That's smart. That makes sense. So it was just that, right? Selling sandwiches off the smoker and just boom, 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 building. But yeah, that's why. That's the easiest thing why. And we were already doing things, right? Like in the beginning, we were Organized Chaos, which was a management company. There was no food involved. My business partner's a DJ, and then I managed the artist, an artist for I don't know, I probably managed him for maybe 3 or 4 months, right? Maybe a little bit longer than that, maybe about 5 or 6 months. But that came to an end. But we still cool. His name is Shoes McGee, man. He dope. And my business partner is DJ K Styles. So yeah, man, we were doing that, and we were Organized Chaos before we were Ambiance, right? And so Organized Chaos didn't really have food. Then we added it in, and it just all happened together. So it was just like, okay, this is where we at. This is what we're doing. And then, at some point in time, like by the time I'm finishing school, we're getting, we get an LLC, right? So we begin to turn it into an actual business and make it real. And it includes food this time.
I feel like based off the entire conversation that we had, I feel like one thing I've observed is that you're very adaptable. And it seems that you do a very good job of picking up information and being able to apply it elsewhere. Can you go into some more insight as to how you were able to develop that skill? Because I feel like a lot of young entrepreneurs such as, me and Noah over there would like to learn more about that because, man, that's an interesting skill. You talked about a bunch of versatile things that you've done throughout your life. You went from a farm to being cool and managing an artist and being linked up with a DJ. I mean, I find that to be very interesting. I want to learn some more about that, man.
Okay. I guess everything is just the things that I do are parts of me, right? Things that I'm interested in. You know what I mean? Like the farm. So that's just the family, right? That's not just, but that's the family. That's what it looked like. So there's a farm life in East Texas, and then my people here in East Texas, they call me a city boy, right? but some people in here would call me somewhat country. It's an interesting dynamic. Yeah. So I'm a little bit of both, though, right? And so. I just think just being adaptable, just because I saw it, right? I said my grandfather, like a farmer, a butcher, he worked the backhoe and did plumbing, you know what I'm saying? And just driving the tractor, right? It's just different things. So I always saw people in my life being multifaceted, you know what I'm saying? Same thing with my father, he's doing different things. Working on cars, a mechanic, building stuff. So it's just like I always saw that. So, not a lot of one-trick pony where I come from. That's really the thing. Yeah. And so just the different parts of me, just at some point they got to live, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But I think the thing that makes it easy, though, is because I don't believe in controlling anything outside of myself. Okay. Right? You know what I'm saying? The biggest thing is to like manage and master what's going on over here. Mm-hmm. And then as long as I'm under control, or have some type of my head wrapped around things to some extent, then I can be cool in any room where I'm at, right? Yeah. Depending on what the situation is, I'm going to speak more, listen more, just whatever I need to be. But, but I also, because I understand leadership, it's, understanding that to be adaptable, you got to pay attention first. Yeah. I think so. Not wanting to control anything outside of myself, and then also understanding that you have to follow before you can lead, right? You have to learn something. You have to get some wisdom in this room before you can be at the head of the room. So I think that because I saw that's just how I was raised. It's just it came natural to me, and because I learned not to try to control everything, right? Because I thought I could control everything, before, right? Mm-hmm. So that just spontaneously combusts. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't control everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can really control this. So. But that's it, man. So I just say being able to follow leadership and understand when it's my turn, and to just being open to allow things to be what they are and manage myself in whatever environment that I'm in. Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you sharing that. I honestly find that very interesting because I would say that I have a very similar mindset in that sense that the way that I go about my own personal life is that if something is completely out of my control, I tend not to worry about it just because the only things that I can affect are the things that are in my control, which should be the things that I prioritize. So I definitely see where you're coming from in that sense. One last thing I want to ask you is if you had anything that you could tell your younger self back when you first got started, back when you first were like, yeah, I think this cooking, I think this is for me. If you can give yourself any piece of advice, what would you tell yourself?
What would I tell a younger version of Bub? What would I tell him? I would tell him to learn to love yourself first, right? You know what I'm saying? And whatever that looks like, because it's once you can learn to love yourself first and love yourself properly, then you can everything else changes, right? Because it's like when you can have a heart and you want to give, you want to help other people. But it's like if I give you what I can spare, I will, because I care about you, I love you, you're my friend, or whatever it is. If I'm giving you what I can spare, that means that I'm still missing something, right? Because I'm sparing it, you know what I'm saying? But I got you, but now I don't got what I need, right? Yeah. And that's a part of it sometimes. I mean, that's gonna happen. But the ultimate goal is if once you get you together, then the people that you love and care about can catch your overflow. And the overflow of you is so much more powerful than what you can spare. Because it's when your cup is running over, man, you can share that and you can help somebody and it doesn't deplete you. You see what I'm saying? So just learning to do that first. And, I think that changes things, right? And then, it's that part. And then and that includes, I guess, for me, and I would say love yourself first, eat, eat clean, and meditate and learn how to breathe. But but at this point in time, I consider all those things form of self-love for me. But if I had to break it down, those are some of the pointers. Learn how to breathe, meditate, love yourself, eat healthy, and stay active and exercise. And keep your mind fresh. So those 6 things, right? But just under the umbrella of loving yourself first.
I definitely personally agree, because one of the things I've seen, especially as I've gotten older, is I tend to see a lot of people overextending in the sense of helping others. So while I do like the notion of making sure you take care of your own people and things like that, that is something that people need to be careful of, which is making sure that you can also take care of yourself. So I definitely see where you're coming from in that sense. And honestly, I definitely enjoy the meditation aspect about that too. So one last question in that sense. How did you get into meditation, and how did that change, and how did that become effective for you?
Man, it's just something that, watching old school kung fu flicks, you know what I'm saying? You always seen the guys meditate, but it was always something that I was attracted to, right? You know what I'm saying? Even when I didn't know what I was doing, you know what I'm saying? And then at some point I didn't, but just emulating them fighting, they sit there, they meditate, they work out, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's where I got introduced to it first, the old school kung fu flicks. And then, but then later on in life, it just was always something that I just been attracted to, and honestly, I don't, like I said, I could be just on point, you know what I'm saying? And then sometimes I kind of don't get the meditation in, but I just, but doing that meditation, it definitely helps calm the mind, right? You know what I'm saying? And it provides clarity, because you got to be able to hear yourself. If it's a rhetorical question is, do you know what your own voice sounds like? Because if you don't, then do you know who you are? Right? You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes we have to unplug and turn the noise off. And so it's that part of it. So the meditation is unplugging and to turn the noise off, right? And 5 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, man, turns the noise off for that amount of time, which can change your whole day, right? If you do it consistently, it changes more than the day. And learning how to breathe within that. So it's just something that I was attracted to, then at some point in time, I just finally did it. And then I added into some consistency with it.
I got you. I definitely love the aspect behind meditating to clear your mind, because at the end of the day, it's very hard to go through life if your mind is flooded with a bunch of worries and if it's just overall chaotic. So I love that piece of advice. And honestly, I think a lot of other people would love to venture into the more spiritual aspect of calming themselves so that they can truly develop as human beings and gain a better understanding of themselves. So once again, my name is Azariah, and here we are here today with...
I am Bub.
So I really appreciate you coming out and conducting this interview with me. I thought it was very insightful, and I appreciate you opening up and giving me all this information about yourself and your background. I think a lot of people, once again, will be able to take a lot of lessons from what you said today. So, hey, man, it was really nice interviewing you, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was no problem.
All right.
All right, sensational.